Hi. So today I'm going to be talking about the 10 books I'm going to read in August 2020. Um, I have 8 of them here with me, and 2 of them are on my Kindle. And I just wanted to go through my to-be-read list for this month. It's raining outside, so I hope the noise is not too loud, and mine is loud enough. My voice is loud enough. Yeah, so let's just get through it. So the first book I'm going to read is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is still a really popular YA fantasy novel. I think it came out 4 to 5 years ago. I know it's really big on BookTube, but it slipped under my radar. I didn't hear about it when it came out, probably because I stopped reading YA fantasy in high school. The last series I read might have been Hunger Games. But I'm really excited for it because it was a genre I really enjoyed. So I want to read it. I know nothing about this book except that there are 2 different series in the universe. It's called Grishaverse, and there's this duology, Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, which I already have. And there's also the Shadow and Bone trilogy, though I think this came before that. So I'm excited to read it. I'm going to read this one in the beginning of this month, August, and then read the second one in September. I'm spacing it out a little bit because I think the best part about reading any series is the anticipation between books. I remember like growing up with Harry Potter and the Inheritance series, Percy Jackson, all of these, that every year just like theorizing where the story would go and imagining the characters and creating your own story, sometimes writing yourself into it. So that was the best part. So even though I can't do that now because I have both the books, I thought I'll give myself a month just to let them sit. Hopefully I like the book, otherwise it's going to be a pain to get through the second one. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I want to see what all the fuss is about. So it's the first book, and then after this I'm going to be reading Strangers of the Mist by Sanjoy Hazarika. This is Sanjoy Hazarika is Assamese. I think he's from Assam. He's Assamese, and this is a book about Northeast India, the current geopolitical situation there, and other stories. Northeast India is largely ignored by the rest of India when it comes to stories, politics, arts, everything. So I'm going to be reading this book with another friend of mine who actually, I saw her like this on Goodreads, and I'm like, hey, you want to read it together? And she's like, yeah. I was like, yay. So book club. I've been trying to read more books by Indian authors because I've realized most of the books I've read growing up have dominantly been Caucasian men and women. Men when it comes to all the classics, and women when it comes to mostly romance books. So let's diversify. Last year and the year before, I only read, majority of the books I read were by people of color, African Americans, Africans, and Indians. Sorry, I know diversity does not mean brown and black, it also means other people. This year, now that I'm going to be reading 10 books a month for the rest of the year, I really want to make sure that I at least read 1 book by an Indian author, sometimes 2, but this month I think I only have 1. So it's this, Strangers of the Mist. I was actually supposed to read Kiran Desai's Inheritance of Loss, but I pushed that to next month, so it's just going to be this one. I'm really excited. It's going to be a little bit of a drag when I realize how much India ignores its northeastern region, but I gotta face the facts, right? So yay. I'm excited for it. Though it's going to be a long book because look at the font size, and it's just, the paper is very thin. So yay. So after that heavy hitter, I'm definitely going to need a breather, so I'm going to be reading Red, White, and Royal Blue by McQuiston. I'm butchering the names. It's okay. Yeah, white people always butcher Indian names, so. This is going to be a love story between the first son of the United States and the Prince of Wales. It's going to be a fun book. Though I really don't get the American obsession with elevating the presidency and to royalty. I think it started with the Kennedys, right? That's the first family to elevate to level of myth and royalty. Because it's not the first book I'm reading where there's a whole genre out there where they fantasize about getting with the first daughter or first son of the United States. I know I read this book by Meg Cabot called All American Girl in high school, and I really liked it, but that was that too. She Falls for the First Son of United States. And then there's also a bunch of movies. The one with Mandy Moore, which is called Chasing Liberty, and First Daughter. So this is the whole genre, but I'm excited for this because it's popular and I like a nice rom-com. This is the third LGBTQ love story I'm reading this year. I read Find Me by Andrea Ackman, which is the follow-up to Call Me By Your Name. I didn't like that book as much, but I love Call Me By Your Name. The second one was Less by Andrew Sean Greer, and then this, and Less was amazing, so hopefully this is really good too. But also made me realize I need to diversify the stories of LGBTQ, because right now it's always been homosexual men, and I would like more queer representation in my reading, so I need to make a more conscious choice of finding more books by other people with different sexualities. So yeah, but still, that's not a knock on this, it's just a knock on me for not doing better. Next, so yeah, should be fun. And the next book I'm going to read, I've really been looking forward to this. I didn't even know it came out because I've been really out of reading. I haven't been reading as much in the last few years, but trying to get back into it this year thanks to quarantine. So I should maybe tell you that. So my goal for 2020 initially in the start of this year was that I'd read more and read 25 books, and as of yesterday I'm already at 25. I've started reading end of May, right after the quarantine in India ended. So, and I did 5 books from Jan to May, and then 10 books in June, 10 books in July, and so now I want to try to do 10 books for the rest of the year and actually try to do 75 books this year. It is a little bit hard because I literally finished my 10th book month of July at 11:30 p.m. last night. It's mostly on me though. I slacked off in the beginning of the month where I took a week and a half on one of the books because I was just like, oh, don't feel like reading right now. But if I do better, if I'd actually just like try to read 2 to 3 hours a day, I'm sure it'll be a breeze to get through this goal. It's hard to create that habit. So I want to do 75 books. And as I've been reading more this year, I've been discovering all the books I've missed out in the last 5 to 6 years, which is when I think college was when I really stopped reading. I did 2 liberal arts degrees in college, economics and international relations, and both of them required a lot of additional reading, class reading and additional reading. When I had time for myself, I never picked up a book, maybe because I had PTSD or something, but just no. Now that I'm reading a lot, I realized how much I've missed it. It was such a big part of my childhood, and I'm glad I'm back into it. It's not like I haven't read at all in the last few years. I read about 5-6 books last year and around the same the year before, so a little bit, but not as much as I would have liked. So I'm rediscovering all the hits from the last 6 years and trying to get through them. So now that I'm done with the explanation, let's get back into the list. So this is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. This is a story I already sort of know. This is not fiction. Before, like, the sexual assault and sexual harassment had this huge movement in media and our cultural zeitgeist, there were some cases I think that led to that. One of them, the ones that stand out to me was the Nirbhaya case in India, in Delhi. And when I was in college, there were 2 cases that really stood out to me. One was there was the first or second year of college. I remember there was a Columbia student who carried around her dorm room mattress to signify all the sexual assault and domestic abuse and everything else that goes untalked about and unaddressed in college campuses. And it was such a huge movement that other people started doing it, and it brought a lot of attention to widespread permutation of assault in every country, not just the United States. And the second case I really remember in college was this one, which was it was called Jane Doe versus, she was Jane Doe for a long time. We didn't know her name because they were trying to protect her identity. Where I remember the Brock Turner, right? Her assailant is called Brock Turner. And it was a really popular case because despite the overwhelming amount of evidence against him, he still got away with, I think, 6 months of community service because it was his first offense and rich white kid. Why would you want to spoil his future because he did this one bad thing of assaulting a woman who was blacked out. So blacked out drunk, but it doesn't matter what she was wearing, how much she drank or what. You do not have sex with anyone without their consent, and she didn't give consent at all. So this is her story. I remember when the case was happening, when she put out a testimony or victim impact statement. Is that what it's called? Victim impact statement on BuzzFeed, which was really popular. I read it then and I really liked it. And I thought she was a phenomenal writer then too. For someone who's not whose profession to write, I thought she wrote really well. It garnered a lot of empathy, and it was a case I cared a lot about when it happened, and I think this is one of the precursors to the Me Too movement, because it takes a lot of things for huge monumental shifts to happen in policy. And I think even her case influenced a lot of California laws about sexual assault, so just like the Nirbhaya case influenced a lot of laws in India. So yeah, her name is Chanel Miller. I know her name. She's not Jane Doe anymore. Yes. And there's this whole culture now, right, of knowing the victims' names and not giving any more attention to the oppressors than they need. But this is more so in like terrorism cases or white supremacy cases or suicide bombers and all of these. When we give the attackers, the oppressors, the attention, maybe we're somehow satisfying their ego. So taking away the notoriety from them and giving it to victims so that it's their story. Okay, so the next book I'm going to read, which I don't have a physical copy of, is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. This is a modern classic. It's a sci-fi. It's a really famous sci-fi. I call it trilogy, though there's, I think, 5 or 6 books in the series, so I think that's the point. It's the paradox. I actually don't know what the book is about or the series is about. I know there's space travel involved, but I feel like Douglas Adams is either a famous scientist or an atheist, because in Richard Dawkins' The God Delusion, he refers to Douglas Adams a lot. It's one of the only people I guess Richard Dawkins ever admired or even considers as equal. That's not the point. So Douglas Adams, sci-fi, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm going to be reading that, and if I like it, I'm going to get through the series. I have part 2 and part 3 with me, the physical copies already. So, more incentive to like it. I'm sure I'll like it. So, and after that, I'm gonna read Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Caitlin Doughty. Caitlin Doughty is a mortician. So this is gonna be an exploration of death and our cultures, or more American cultures, but generally I think the world culture of dealing with death and the stigmas around it and all of that. So I'm really excited for it because I have a morbid sense of humor. I love dark humor. Morticians don't go to medical school, right? Though in my head they do. I don't think they do though. In my head I'm going to put her in the medical field category, but I've discovered all the doctors' books I've read are excellent writers. It's really unfair. You shouldn't be so good at 2 things. But yeah, I'm excited for this. I like topics that deal with death. A couple of books that I've seen that do it really well was The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak, and the other book I really like that kind of deals with that is Paul Kalani's When Breath Becomes Air, because he himself was obsessed with death and dying and what that means even before he realized he has terminal cancer. But yeah, so I'm excited for this because it's completely up my alley from what I hear about it. And my 7th book is gonna be Ask Again, Yes. This is the only 2020 release I'm reading this month because as I said, I'm still trying to catch up on all the books I've missed out on. This is really popular. I've seen so many people post this on Instagram and YouTube and any social media I can think of. I'm only on those 2, so. On Goodreads too, this is popular, so I'm gonna be reading this. I actually thought this was more about, for some reason I looked at this cover and I thought it would be like a feminist book, but I read it. I ordered it without reading the back cover or synopsis anywhere. I just read the back cover and it seems to be exploration of the suburban life. I might be getting this wrong, but there's also a little bit of a love story in there and family. So let's find out why this book is so popular this year. The cover art for the books this month is just really pretty. Look at this. 1, Look at this one. This is the Six of Crows. I just took off the book jacket and it's so pretty, so pretty. And I also love Chanel Miller's Know My Name. Look at it, it's so pretty. I don't know. So yeah, I'm more excited by the cover and how it looks on my bookcase than I might be about the book. And after that, another pretty book is No Room for Small Dreams by Shimon Peres. He is a politician. He's dead now, so he was a politician from Israel. He, I think, served about 60 to 75 years in politics, which is a really long time to be in politics. He's credited to be a pragmatist and a peace lover, and he served as a president, acting prime minister, and a lot of other roles. One of the biggest achievements of his career was that he was one of the key members that negotiated the Oslo Accords, which were the peace talks between Palestine and Israel, which were kind of successful. Kind of. Everything in context of Israel and Palestine is only kind of successful, but yes. So this is his story. I think he finished writing it right before he died. He died in 2016. I tend to read a lot of nonfiction, but in nonfiction I have two major sections I focus on. Books by politicians or about politics, and books by comedians. I like books by politicians, but one thing you always have to do is do your own research and never take a politician at his word. You have to know the ground realities, that they have political affiliations, that they lean a certain way, and those views strongly influence what they say. So I always do my own research outside of any book. So I just finished reading Shashi Tharoor's The Paradox of a Prime Minister. And even with that book, I know that he leans strongly towards Congress and that he is still in power. And that's the reason there are biases there. So you have to keep that in account. You can't take them at their word. So particularly with Middle East, I'm hoping I don't have to do as much research with this, because with Middle East was like a big focus in my major, because the college I went to, the most professors, their main focus in their PhDs or career was the Middle East, so that was the subject they were really good at, so I took a lot of classes in it, have a general context for the Middle East. So I should be okay getting through this. I should be able to see the other side for every argument he's making for himself or otherwise, but still, I know that he's a very well-respected man by, I don't know, politicians everywhere. So I'm excited to read it. And the book I'm going to read after that is also another book I don't have a physical copy of. Wanted to order it because I really enjoy reading physical books. I know, killing trees, especially because I have a Kindle and Audible account. But I don't know, it's an indulgence I allow myself. It's bad, I'm trying to work on it, so at least there's two books I didn't order this month. So this book is The Hate I Give by Angie Thomas. I know it's a book most people have already heard about because it came out, 3-4 years ago, and there's a movie about it also. Actually read I think the first couple of chapters, and then I put it down because I knew from the trailer and people talking about it what happens in the book that stars the main character of the main protagonist of the book, and her friend gets shot by the police, and that sets in motion the rest of the story. And I just wasn't ready to read that book then, because I don't know, it's hard for me when violence in books against minorities is so close to reality, especially this year, because the Black Lives Movement being at the forefront of everyone's mind. We are really thinking about African American deaths of African Americans and minorities in the United States, but this was true when it came out too. Eric Garner case was the one that really got me, because the We Can't Breathe, just because Jon Stewart is one of the comedians I like to watch. I like his political comedy, and he did this whole segment about We Can't Breathe, and it was just, it's one of my favorite videos. I still watch it because it makes me cry. It always makes me cry. So yeah, I couldn't read it then. It's not just that. Even India, I have a hard time. Article 15 was one of the movies I had a hard time trying to watch, and I regularly avoid movies about sexual assault too. The crimes against Dalits, minorities, women, Muslims, it's all other minorities is just atrocious in this country, and when movies are so realistic, it's hard. It's hard to go through your day. Me, especially me. But ignoring a problem doesn't make it go away. So I'm gonna read it. I've been meaning to read it for a long time. Actually, I think I'm gonna listen to the audiobook because The Hate You Give, the audiobook performance, won some awards, right? It was the best book of 2017 or 2018. So I'm gonna listen to the audiobook for that. So that should be fun. I'm gonna be sad when I finish it, or hopefully happy if it ends on a positive, hopeful note. Maybe the author would be happy to know that how far Black Lives Movement has gotten this year. So maybe Star would be proud. That is the 9th book, and the 10th book is going to be Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. Everyone probably heard of Gillian Flynn because she wrote a book before this called Gone Girl, which is a popular movie, which I have already seen and adore that book, adore that movie. I have the book. Sorry, I have a bookcase across from me, my bigger bookcase, and I keep staring at it and I talk about it. I'm not looking at anyone. I haven't read it because I've already watched the movie, and part of the fun of the thriller is that you don't know the story. But I hear she's an excellent writer. She did the script for the movie too, and the movie is phenomenal. So I don't know nothing about this. I know there's a TV show out with Amy Adams, right? But I haven't watched it for this exact reason, so I can read the book someday and then watch the show. I'm gonna read this. It's gonna be a thriller. I read the back. It just seems to be a murder mystery or kidnapping mystery interlaced with family dynamics, my kind of thing. I don't like a straight thriller without like commenting on human condition or family dynamics. So that's the fun. That's the part, the depth of the story, and the metaphors are the fun parts of any fictional book. So excited. And I love guessing, like I love picking up the clues and guessing what happens next. I do this with books that don't require it also, like even like a regular fiction book. I'm just like, I'm just like, oh, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen. Which is kind of useless. A lot of non-thriller books don't really, the point is not the ending, the point is the journey. But thrillers, I think, more or less, the point is also the ending. So yeah, let me see how good I do with guessing what's gonna happen in this book. So yeah, those are my 10 books for this month. I need to get started because I'm already slightly behind. I didn't read it all today, so I shall get started after I'm done with this video. As I said, I already did 25 books this year. I'm gonna do my wrap up of the books I did in June and July, reviews of all the books I read, and then there's some of the books I want to talk about in depth too, because either they're really good or really bad, or like the ones that really disappointed me. I'm gonna talk about those because some books require more than like a couple of minutes of your time. I think I'm gonna try and do a video a week, maybe more, maybe less. Like I've never done those before, so it's a discovery process. As you can tell by the fact that my camera is shaking a lot because I stacked a bunch of boxes together and put my phone on my laptop. Yeah, I have no idea how to edit a video. I'm gonna look it up after I'm done with this and figure out how to edit a video. I don't even know how to put font on a video or into juxtapose pictures on. I'd love it if anyone reads along with me. As I said, I'm gonna do a review and put out all the books I've read before. So if you guys want any specific reviews of any of the books I've read before, I can do that. I only want to do reviews of the books I've read this year though, because the books I've read before that are not really that fresh in my head, and I don't want to do any book injustice. So there, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the books I'm reading, or if anyone wants to read along with me, that'd be fantastic. Like the reason I'm doing this is because I want to talk about books. That's it for today. I'll get started on reading now. Bye.